Hello and welcome everyone to a new Oxygen Live webinar. My name is Alim Belu and I will be your host for today's event. This marks the third event from our new weekly series of live webinars that is taking place as usual every Wednesday, 8 a.m. for US Pacific Time, 11 a.m. for US Eastern Time, and in Europe between 4 and 6 p.m. Now, if you want to be able to process XML documents with a killer combination of XSLT, the most powerful language to process XML documents, and Oxygen XML, the tool that is best fit for this job, well, you joined the right event. Octaviano Dolu, software architect at Synchrosoft, the company that develops Oxygen XML, will join us in a couple of moments to offer us an introduction to XSLT using Oxygen XML editor. But before that, let me give you some useful information regarding this live event. Know that all of our events are being recorded, and so is this one. The recording will be made available along with the samples on the event page from our site and also on the Oxygen XML YouTube channel. Another important thing is that as we go along, we invite you to ask us questions by using the questions panel from the GoToWebinar interface. George Bina, one of the founders of Synchrosoft, will be nearby to answer to some of your questions in real time. With this being said, now I'll give the floor to Octaviano Dolu. Hello, Octavian.
Hello, Aline. Thank you. Hello, everyone. My name is Octaviano Dolu, and today we'll discuss about XSLT. It will be an introduction to XSLT using Oxygen XML editor. I'll show you how you can create an XSLT from scratch to validate and make a transformation. Here's the agenda of the presentation. So first we'll discuss about XSLT editing and the content completion assistant, and I'll show you some interesting things here. Also how you can validate XSLT. Then we'll make some transformation. At the end, we'll generate the documentation for our style sheet, and we'll also create unit testing. So what's XSLT? It's an extensible XSLT comes from extensible style sheet language transformation, and it's a language for transforming XML documents. But you can also use it for transforming JSON or other type of documents. It's an XML-based language. The specification is developed by W3C Consortium, and there are 3 specifications available. The first one was released in 1999. Then the second one, and I think the most used, was released in 2007, and the last one in 2017. This is the most complete one, the most complex one, and the specification are backward compatible. So if you have, for example, style sheets with the version 1.0, you can go easy to 3.0 just by changing the version and then use the new functions. Before we continue, I have a question for you. What XSLT version do you use? And I will ask Aline to start the poll. So the answer will be none. If you don't use XSLT, maybe you just look to see what's XSLT here, or XSLT 1 or 2 or 3.0. So you can check one or multiple answers here. And we'll leave this poll a few seconds to respond, and then we'll share the results with you. I'm also interested in what XSLT versions we use. I see already some of the results. I think we can stop the poll now. So we see that 44% of you are using 2.0, and then there are still 80% that are using 1.0, and 22 that are using the latest version 3.0. But we have also 37% that they do not use XSLT yet. So maybe we'll convince them to use it, and we'll show them how to use XSLT. So let's go further, and start the demo. So we'll start by editing a style sheet from scratch and validate the style sheet and then transform it. I prepared for this demonstration some sample files. So I want to create a style sheet from scratch and generate an HTML file. And the input XML file, it's something like this, contains it's a list of books, and each book has a target URI from where you can buy the book, and then the title, the author, and an image of the book and some description. And we want to generate this nice HTML that will have the image in the left and then the title and the description in the right. So let's switch to Oxygen. This is the XML that contains the list of books. So there are different books here for XML or for XSLT with the information that I told you about with the title, author, image, and so on. So in order to create an XSLT, you can go here in the project view and use the new action from here, new file, and then select XSLT style sheet. You can set a name. Let's say we want to say books. And then you can customize this style sheet and you can specify the version of the style sheet that you want to create. So you can choose between 1.0, 2.0, or 3.0. In my case, I want to use 3.0, and I'll show you also some features from 3.0. And I also want to add documentation for the style sheet. So you can document your style sheet and specify what each function or template does. And Oxygen comes with a built-in schema for documentation, but you can also use a subset of HTML or data or tagbook if you want to document. I'll hit create, and the style sheet is created. We see that the style sheet, the XSL namespace is added on the root, and it's mapped to the XSL prefix. And there are a few other namespaces here, the XML schema. Then we have also the namespace for documentation. So this is the namespace of the schema that we provide for documentation. And automatically also this documentation element was added, and we see that it has a different color from the XSL. And here it's the date where when I created this and my name. And we see also the version of the style sheet is 3.0 here. So here we can specify what we need to do with the style sheet. So we can say generate an HTML with books, something like this. You can document it better. Then here, in order to start editing your style sheet, you can insert a less than, and the content completion automatically presents the elements that can be inserted in this place. In my case, I want to insert an XSL element, and I choose the XSL prefix. And then you can select all the elements, XSL elements that are valid in this place. And you have also documentation for them in the right. And you can read the documentation, and you have also links to the specification in order to read more, and also to the Saxonica documentation. In my case, for example, I want to insert an XSL template. So I'll go here, XSL template, and we see that here are explained also some terms such as name template or template rule, and you can click on this and it opens the documentation in the browser. And we see that because I use a 3.0 style sheet, it's the 3.0 documentation specification opened. And you have here the definition of a name template. You can read more about this and you can see examples and so on. So in my case, I want to insert an XSL template. And we notice that we have also a red highlight here. This means that we have an error. Automatically, Oxygen applies a validation scenario on the style sheet, so you don't need to do something. The validation pops up automatically, and you can also use this action from the toolbar to validate the document if you want to see the errors in the results. And we see that a scenario it's applied. It's an XSLT. The name of the scenario is XSLT, and the processor used is Saxon PE. This scenario is defined in the framework, in the XSLT framework, and you can check it here in the configure transformation scenario. There is this XSLT scenario, and we can take a look that we have a default validation that uses the Saxon that is defined in preferences, and then has also some quality assurance checks that are made in using schematron. So you can apply custom schematron checks on the XSLT just by defining this in the scenario. We provide this by default, so we provide checks related to the documentation or code or best practices. And I will show you later some of these checks. So we'll leave this scenario as it is, and we'll start editing. In my case, I need to add here a name or the match as the error here presents. So I will add a match, and I want to match the book's root element, and then inside I just want to use an XSL apply templates just to print all the text from the input document. So we created now an XSL. It's a valid XSL 3.0. It's safe here in the project where I created it. So we can go to the next step. The next step will be to associate the XML document with XSL and generate this HTML file that we want to obtain. And in order to do this, you need to create a transformation scenario in Oxygen. Let's see how we can do this. So we switch to Oxygen, and here on the toolbar, we have this action that says configure transformation scenario, and we click it, and then we can create a new XSLT transformation. Here is the name of the style sheet. You can change it if you want. Then where is stored? So by default, the scenario is stored in the project options, and you can share it with your team with your project. And you can store it also in global options if you don't want to have it in your project. Then you need to select the file, the XML file. So I'll browse it and select it. And we notice that a project directory URL variable is added here. And this will help you when you move the scenario in the project in other place, the scenario will still work. So if you move the scenario with your files in other place or you share it with someone, the scenario will still work because this will be expanded to the location of the project. And for the XSL, we can leave the current file URL, which is the file that you apply the scenario on. Then you can select the processor. By default, it's Saxon PE, but we provide also other processors, and we provide also the latest Saxon versions or older ones, if you want. I just want to use Saxon PE in my presentation. Then you can set some parameters, extension, additional style sheets. Right now, I don't need this. Here in the FO processor, you can perform FO. You can generate a PDF just by using this default Apache FOP from here. But I just want to use this transformation scenario to generate an HTML. So I'll go to the output tab, and here I will type a name where I want to store my result. So let's say result.html. So this is where I want to store the result, and I want to open the result in the browser. And here I don't want to preview the result. I just want to see it in the browser. So OK, and then I will save it. So I created the scenario. Now I can apply it just by using this action, apply transformation scenario, and it tells you also the name of the scenario that it's applied. And we see that the results HTML is created. It's ugly, the content, so it's just the text from the XML, but it's created, so we have a starting point. And it's saved here in the project. So we'll go to the next step. Now we want to make look better our output. So we want to create a table with these books from the XML, and in the left we want to have this image for all the books, and in the right the rest of the document, the rest of the information, the title, the link, and the author. So let's go back in Oxygen, and here, instead of applying the default templates, I will insert an HTML. And we see that Oxygen also offers content completion for HTML. So you can easily insert a table, then a head, and then inside the head, you can insert the title of the HTML and can set a name, list of books. But you can also create this HTML content more easily using Emmet abbreviations, and I will show you what this means. So you can say something like this: I want to have a body, and then inside the body, I want to have an H1 for the title, and as brother, I want to have a table, and then in the table, I want to have a row, and in the row, I want to have 2 columns. So you can type something like this, and then control space will automatically create the structure. You can use also this action from here, Emmet expand abbreviation, and it will do the same thing. So in order to have this support that will automatically create content using Emmet abbreviation, you need to install a plugin. I already installed it, but you can install it very easily just by going here in the help, install add-ons, then select the default update site here. Here are all the plugins that Oxygen provides, and here we have this Oxygen Emmet plugin, and just hit next, and it will be installed. So now we have this body with the H1, so we need to set a title here. Let's say list of recommended books, and I misspelled, but I have also the spell checker, so it helps me. Then okay, then we need to have in the table, we need to have a row for each book from the XML. I have also a view here in the right. This is the XSLT input view. And this shows me the structure of the XML document. Because I created the transformation scenario, I can see also the structure of the XML input here. And I can see what elements and attributes are in the XML file that I want to process. So it's very easy for me. And I can also use some actions here. So if I right click on this book, I have some actions that will say use an XSL for each, or an apply templates. So here I want to apply a template for each book from the XML. So I'll just click this, and an XSL apply template is inserted. And because I have a namespace for my XML document, it's added automatically also the namespace declaration. But I don't want to have this namespace declaration added every time. So I can define this as an XPath default namespace on the root. So I can go here in the style sheet, control space, XPath default namespace, and I'll set this namespace as default. Then let's insert again the apply template. So I'll delete this and go back here and use the action again. So now looks nice, much better. So for each book from the style sheet, I want to apply a template. So I need to create one. I will delete this row from here, and I will go after the current template, and I will create a new template. And this time I can use a template match, a code template. Code templates are small document fragments that helps you to edit your document. And for the XSLT are defined a set of code templates. You can see all of them just pressing control space here. And there are a lot of code templates that you can use. And this speed up your work and helps you to insert more easily XSLT content. So in my case, I want to insert a template with match. Just select enter, and then I get also the elements in the content completion window, the elements and attributes from the XML. This is also because I associated the scenario. So it helps me very much now, and I can see, I can select very easily here book and enter, and I have a template that matches the book element. And we see that we have also an warning here. This is an warning that the validation scenario gives us. And this is because I didn't add documentation for this, this template. And I have also some actions that will allow me to add documentation for the current template. And an SSD doc, it's added automatically. And I can insert the documentation for the current template. Let's say process the book element and generate a row, let's say. So for each book, we want to generate a row with with the image in the left on the first column. And to speed up a little bit the work here, I created an HTML template, and we'll see it. This is how I want to have my output. So on each row, I want to have on the first column the image, and then on the second column, I want to have this title with link, and then the information about the book. So I'll just copy this structure from here. This contains some static content, so it's nothing from XML, just to see the structure, how should be. So I will save this style sheet, and then if I run the transformation, I can see that now my style sheet looks better. So I have this title here, and I have this static content added, but this is how I want to have my output at the final stage. And now we need to add the information from the XML document. So first, I want to add this image here in the left, the image of the current book. And I can take this information from the image element. This contains a description and the source of the image. So let's go back in Oxygen. And we see that here on the first column, we have this image added. And I will insert a call template here and apply templates. So I'll delete this, and I'll say apply templates with match and select. And then select the image element. And after the current template, let's add some space. We'll insert again a template with match. And we'll select the image element. And we can add also documentation for this template. And let's say something like process the image element and generates an image in HTML. I don't know, something like this. Then here I will paste the image that I copied from the template. And here we need to create this image element, and in the source, I want to add the value of the source from the image. So I'll just double click here, delete this content, and insert a curly bracket, open curly bracket, and I can insert here an attribute value template. So if I press here Control Space, I get automatically the attributes and the nodes from the image element, but also functions that I can use to process my my content. In my case, I just want to use the value of the source attribute, and here in the alternate, double click to select this, and then insert a start curly bracket, and Control Space. I'll use the value of the description. So now I will save this, and I'll run my transformation again to see the result. And we see that we have the books in the left, which is great. The books image in the left. Now we need to continue with the rest. So the next step will be to generate these nice links here with the name of the book. So the name of the book is in the title, and this target URI contains the link where it should be point to. So let's go back in Oxygen, and here is the title with link, and we see that here in the href we need to add the target URI, and here in the title, but also as text we need to add the title of the book. And because the text is in two places, I can create a variable and reuse this content. So I'll go here and say XSL variable, let's say name title, and I will select the value of the title element. And I'll have a variable also for the target URI. So I'll do the same thing, XSL variable, target URI, and then select the value of the target URI attribute. Now I want to use these variables. So here I'll double click, delete this, insert a start curly bracket, open curly bracket, and attribute value template. And then here, if I type $, I get the variables and the parameters that are defined in my context. So in my case, I want to use the value of the title variable. No, title, and I want to use the value of the target URI. And here I want to use the value of the title. So I'll insert an attribute value template and then the value of the title. And I want to use the value of the title also here, but this time I'll use a text value template, which is a 3.0 feature. And in order to insert the 3.0 a text value template, which is similar with an attribute value template, but it's in text, so you can open a curly bracket and close it and insert the values there. So in order to for these text value templates to be expanded by the processor, you need to set an XSL expand text attribute on a parent element with the value true in order to be expanded. So either you set it on a foreign element, as I set it here on an HTML element, or you can set it directly here, for example, on the template, or directly on the root. Then I can open a curly bracket here, and now I can start also the content completion here. And you have content completion also in text value templates, and you have functions, and you can get also the variables from the context very easily. And now I can delete the static context. So I have now a title with link that looks as I want. I'll add it on a single line here. Now, maybe this title with link I'll reuse later, so I can refactor this and I can extract it in a separate template to reuse it. To do this, you can just select some code and you can use this quick assist action here to extract the template, or you can use also the contextual menu and go in the refactoring here, and you have more actions. You can extract it as a function also. You can create a variable, and you have other refactoring actions that you can use here. I'll just use this extract template and say title with link. And I can also preview my modification. A preview dialog is opened, and I can see that my title with link it's replaced with a call template. And because I used also some variables here, this call template gets also the parameters, the variable values passed as parameters, and the parameters then are used in my newly created template. So I just accept this modification, and we see that the call template it's created, and here is the template with the link that I created, and I can add documentation also for this template. And because this time I have also parameters here, we notice that also the documentation, you need to add the documentation also for the parameter. So here you can specify something like create title with link, let's say, and here for the target URI, I don't know, something like the URI of the title. And here for the title text, something. So now I have also the documentation. My title with link is created. I can run the transformation again to see the result. And we notice that we have now this title with link created. And we can click on this link, and it takes us to the page where we can buy this book. So it's what we expect to have. Let's go to the next step. So now we want to have also the author added in our HTML file. So we'll go back to our document, and here in the books template we have the author that it's created. We'll delete this static value, and this time we need to add the value of the author element from the XML, and I can use drag and drop from this XSLT input view and insert the value directly here just by selecting something like this, and then use the XSL value of. I didn't drop it correctly, so I'll do it again. So you can just drag it here, drop it, and say XSL value of, and now the value of the author element will be presented as the author, and we'll save it, and we run again the transformation, and we see that for each book now we have also the author. Next, we want to have also the paperback, the publisher, and the ISBN. So let's see how we can do this. So here is the paperback, the number of pages. I will use a code template this time. So I will say value of select and say paperback very easily. Then here I want to have the publisher, so value of select, and then the publisher. And here the ISBN code, so value of select. So it's very easy to insert code using these code templates. You just type the code templates, control space, and the content is inserted. So now I have also the rest of the information. I can check it if it's correct. So we see that for each we have this number of pages with the author and this code for the book. So it's perfect. Next, we want to add also the documentation for our books. So the documentation is added here, and this time I want to add a template. So I will just use an XSL apply templates, and after this template, if I drag and drop, we see that automatically a template is inserted, because in this place you cannot do anything with the element. You can just insert a template. So now I need to add also the documentation for this for the current book. So I'll just use this action from here and add the documentation, process the description of the book, let's say. And inside, I will just call an XSL apply templates. I'll just use the default template. The default templates, I'll just print the string from there. But I want to have this in a paragraph, so I can select this Control E to surround, and I want to have a paragraph here to look better. And now let's run our transformation again, and we get the HTML file that we wanted with all the information, with the title, the links, and the description of the book. So as our first conclusion, we created a style sheet from scratch. You've seen how you can use this XPath support and the content completion, XSLT content completion, the code templates that helps you to easily insert content, and also the EMET abbreviation. This XSLT input views helps you a lot to see the structure of the document, and it's useful. And you can also use those actions to create content very easily. You've seen that you have validation as you type, so you don't need to do something special. You get the validation just by creating the style sheet automatically. Oxygen detects that is a style sheet and presents you the errors. And you have also quick fixes, these actions that will help you to solve them, as you see for the documentation. And you can also add schematron rules to enforce more rules. You can edit also our rules, and you can also add your own custom rules. For the transformation, you see that you need to create a transformation scenario. We have this support to create transformation scenario and select the engine and provide information about what is the source of the transformation. And you can store the transformation scenario and share it with your team very easily in the project. So before we continue, I have another question for you. Do you use Oxygen for XSLT development? And the poll, I think it's opened. So the answer would be yes if you are using it, or maybe just test Oxygen, or you are using Oxygen but not for XSLT, or maybe you are using a different tool and you are looking for what features we have here, or you don't use Oxygen and not XSLT, you just want to see the features. So we'll leave this to respond. So it's there are interesting answers here. We'll leave you just a few seconds, and I think we can stop it and see the results. So we see that 44% of you are using Oxygen. So thank you very much for using it, and we hope you'll use it with all these features in the future. There are 10% that are testing, and we hope that we convince them to use it. And there are 40% that are using, but not for XSLT, and maybe they will learn how to use it also for XSLT from this webinar. And there are also some of you that are using different tools or are not using Oxygen and also XSLT. Maybe we'll convince them to use it. So thank you for sharing this information with us. So let's continue with the presentation. So the next step in our presentation will be to identify and rename components. Oxygen provides support to rename parameter or templates or variable to search for them. And I will show you how you can do this. So I will go back in Oxygen. And I have here a simple style sheet, but if you have more complex style sheet, then you'll have more variables, and then it will be more useful. So we see that every time you click on a definition of a variable or you go on a reference, automatically all the references and definitions are, and also the definition is highlighted. Also for the template, we see that here you have the definition highlighted, and you can also control click on a definition, on a reference, and it takes you to the definition of that component, in my case the template. So it's very easy to search for a definition in a style sheet. And you have also in the quick assist menu a set of actions. You can search for declaration, you can see the component dependency, you can rename a component in place, for example, and you can use these shortcuts very easily, for example, to say, let's say I want to rename this target URI and type it with uppercase, something like this, and then it's renamed automatically in all the places, and then enter to accept the modification. But you can also use this action to rename it in multiple files, in case you are using multiple files, and create a backup maybe. And here you can also preview the modification. So let me change it back to a lowercase, and here I can also preview the modification before I accept it. And here you can see all the files from where this variable is used, but in my case it's just one file. Another useful action will be the component dependencies action that will allow you to see from where a variable or a template is used, and you can click on the result and see from where it's used, and then you can see, for example, that it's used in the template with link here, but you can see also from where this template with link is used. So you can expand the entire hierarchy and check from where the component is used, and it's very useful when you want to understand the style sheet and read it. The components are also presented here in the outline view. So all the templates and global variables and parameters are presented here. And this is synchronized with the editor. So every time you go here in the editor, it automatically selects the template it's for this component here. And you can also search. Let's say you want to find the books, you just want to type here B, and you'll find the books templates, and you have multiple actions here. You can filter, or you can show the XML structure. You can show only the local components in case you have a hierarchy of style sheets. You can see only the ones that are local defined, or you can see the entire structure and understand all the templates from your structure. So this is also a useful thing. The next step in my presentation is to have this books group by technology. So each book has a technology, and I want to group them and have a title for each of them. So let's see how we can do this. We'll switch back to Oxygen. So we'll go here after the title. We want to generate a table for each technology with the title as the technology name. If we go to our books XML, we notice that there is an attribute here on each book that it's called technology and has different values. And I can see all the values just by using this XPath toolbar view. Let's say something like this. We get in the content completion the attributes, and type enter. We'll get all the values of the technology. So we have XML, XSL, XSLFO, and I can run this XPath expression also in the XPath builder view here. But here you have more space if you want to type more complex XPath expression. So let's say you want to have the distinct values of the technologies. So I'll use this distinct values function here, and I'll get only the distinct values. And we see that we have 10 technologies here. These are the technologies that we want to obtain in our HTML file. So let's go back to our books XSL, and here we'll insert an XSL for each group. and we'll select the books, and we want to group them by technology. So we'll select the value of technology. And then inside, we want to create an HR, let's say, and then as brother, I want to have an H2 where I want to add the title, and then I want to have a table element. So plus here. And then control space, it creates automatically the structure. And here I want to insert the value of the technology. So value of select very easily, and then select the technology. And then in the table, we want to have the books that are having the same technology. So for this, we'll use XSL, apply templates, and select and use the current group function. This will give me the books with the same technology from the current group. So now we'll save this and run this transformation again. And we see that we have the books that are grouped by technology, which we wanted, and with the horizontal line before them. But we have also the books printed in the document order. So the next step is to have this separated. So I want to have two files, one that has the books in the document order and one that has the books grouped. So let's see how we can do this. We'll go back. And for this, I'll use a choose when and a choose when otherwise. And here I'll use a parameter. Let's say we want to group by technology when a parameter it's set to true. Let's say the parameter name will be group by technology, something like this. And when the parameter is true, we want to have the file, the HTML, something like this. So we'll just select the content that we want to get, and then Alt press and Up key to move the content, and Control I to indent it here. So we want to have the content grouped, and in the otherwise, Alt pressed and Up key to move the content here, and Control I to indent it. In the otherwise case, we want to have it in the document order with the table. And this parameter is not created, and you get an error. You see that it says the validator says that this parameter was not defined, or a variable. And you have also some actions here, so you can create a global variable or a global parameter or a template parameter if you want. In my case, I want to create a global parameter and set it globally. So I'll choose this action, and then the parameter is created here and selected. And I will set also a value, a default value. Let's say by default, we don't want to be grouped by technology, the books. And now if I want to have two files, I will go to the transformation scenario and create a new scenario that will generate the groups grouped, the books grouped. So I'll duplicate my current scenario. I'll set a different name. Let's say group. I misspelled group. And then here in the parameters, I can set a different value for the group by technology. So automatically the parameters, the global parameters are detected by Oxygen, and you can set a different value to the parameters and pass it to your style sheet. So I'll double click this and I type here true. And I will use evaluate as XPath to be evaluated as a Boolean value. This is true, and hit OK. And now I want to have also in output a different HTML file. So I will set a different name. let's say group. And now I will save this, and I want to run both scenario. The first one, the books and the books grouped. So I will apply both of them. And we see that now we have the books that are in the document order, but we have also the books that are grouped and are generated in this books grouped file, HTML file. So you can run also multiple scenarios. You can set different parameters to the scenario. You can also run this scenario from this transformation scenario view. It's very easy to see all the associated scenarios here, these that are checked, and all the scenarios that you can use for this style sheet. So I can double click on one of these scenarios and automatically it's performed. But you can also select multiple scenarios and apply it. You have filters here. You can create new scenarios, delete. You have a lot of actions here. So if you want to manage your scenario more easily, you can use this transformation view. Next, we want to generate the documentation. So we created a style sheet, we added some documentation elements. We want to generate a nice documentation that we want to provide to the user to read it and see what the style sheet does. Oxygen provides support to generate by default the documentation in the HTML format, but you can customize it and you can generate also in other formats. You can also customize the support that we offer for HTML. So let's switch to Oxygen. And here, in order to generate the documentation for our style sheet, we can go and use this action from the toolbar, generate documentation. And here you have the XSL of the book, books XSL, and then the format, where you want to store the file. And you can split the file by location in case you are using a hierarchy of style sheets. It will create an HTML for each of the location. Then you have some settings here. You can generate templates, functions in the documentation, or you can generate an index. I'll leave the default settings right now. So I'll hit just generate. And we see that we have here a documentation generated. In the left, we have an index with all the templates and the parameters, and you can click on them and go to the location. Then we have the documentation that we added in our style sheet with the parameters. We have also links from and we detect from where this template is used or references back. Then we have also some filters here, so we can say that we don't want to see the source by default and all the source is collapsed, but you can expand it very easily and check it, and then you can collapse it back again when you don't want. So this is how the documentation of the style sheet is created. Now we want to test also our style sheet. It's important to have tests for your style sheets, and you can use a programming language to create test cases, but you can also use the support that we provide using XSpec, and I will show you how you can create a simple test for a style sheet. So I'll go in Oxygen, go in the project view, and here if I right click on a style sheet, on the new menu, now I have also an action that says XSLT unit test, and it automatically creates a books XSpec. So it creates an XSpec test with the name of the style sheet. Then we can customize it, and here you can specify for what templates and functions you want to create the test. You can check all of them, or you can check the test that you want to have, the templates that you want to have tests. In my case, I just want to have for this image and title with link. I'll hit create, and the XSpec scenario is created, and we see that we have here a test case for the title with link, and we can set some values for the target URI. Let's say we want to say something like URI, some text, doesn't matter what text we type here, we just need to respect it when you insert the expected result. So for the title, let's say some title, and here in the XSpec, we need to set a message to see when the test fails what happens. So expected title with link. And then here we need to set the expected result. The expected result, you can set it in the select attribute value, but you can also set it directly in the element. So we can add it here. So in our case, we expect that the template will create an H3, and inside we'll have an anchor, and we'll have an href, I think, and the href value should be URI, the value that I passed here. Then we have a title, and the title value should be some title. And also the text here should be some title. Okay, so now I saved it, and then I can run very easily this scenario just by clicking this apply transformation scenario. A scenario is automatically associated with the XSpec, and you can run it, and the result will be opened in the browser, and we'll see that our test passed, which is good. So I created the test correctly, and the second one for the image is not created yet and fails right now. So it's very easy to create a test case, and in case someone modifies our style sheet, let's say someone goes to our title with link template here, and instead of H3 uses H2, then if our test case is run, but this time let's use this XSpec window here. This is a plugin that you can install in Oxygen and presents more nicer the results. You'll see it. You can run the transformation directly from here, or you can run it from the XSpec window, and looks nicer. And we see that both tests fails now. And here we have also some links. It takes us to the test case. You can see the difference. So an H2 is added in our style sheet, is generated from our style sheet, and we expected to have an H3 here. And you can see also the differences in a window, separate window, more nicer. So now we can accept that H2, maybe we decide that it's okay in our style sheet, or we can change it back. Let's say we want an H2 there, so we can change the test, and then I can run it again. You can run all the tests, or you can run just the current test very easily. You can just say, I want to run this test case to see if passes, and we'll see the result. And we see that the test case passed, and we see that everything is okay with our style sheet. So it is important to add test cases for your style sheets, and you can do this using this XSpec support. So as a conclusion, Oxygen has this refactoring, search and refactoring support. You can use to rename a variable or a template very easily in place, but you can also preview the results. You can search for references and declaration. You can use these component dependencies that is very helpful to see how the components are connected. And you can also use the outline view. I didn't go into many details because there are a lot of things there, but I presented some of the things that I thought it's an introduction. So you can also use the transformation view to see the transformation scenarios and run them. The documentation generator helps you to generate this HTML documentation. that is very nice with links, and you can create test cases, unit test cases for your style sheet, and you can run it from Oxygen. We have also a lot of future plans for XSLT. We want to improve the 3.0 support. We want to update the Saxon in Oxygen. We always want to have the latest Saxon version. We want to have XSLT unit coverage. We want to provide more quick fixes and more schematron rules for style sheets. So if you have feedback for us, you can send us. Maybe you can add it in the questions panel, but you can also send us by email. You have also here some references. This PDF is shared also with you on, you can download it right now from the GoToMeeting. And you have here some links to the specification, to the Oxygen website with the support that we have, in the manual where you can find the support, all the support that we offer for XSLT. And here you can find also some presentations on our website. You just need to filter this by technology, and you have also other XSLT presentations here. So thank you very much for your attention, and maybe we'll have time to read some of the questions that you addressed during webinar, or if you have questions. I think I got a little bit over the time, so it's I don't have enough time now for the questions. George?
Hello, Octavian. Hello, everyone. Thank you
Do you
for
have
joining us, and
questions?
thanks for Sebastian for thanks, Octavian, for presenting. We do have a number of questions. So one of them was about the Emmet plugin, whether that is available also on Mac.
Yes.
The answer is yes, of course, it is available also on Mac, but you need to have the latest version of Oxygen, I think 22.1. I think
yes, I
this
think
is
also
the
in
only
22.
version. Okay.
Yes, I think also in 22 is available, but it's better to have the latest version because we made some improvements. I think the control space feature that automatically expands the Emmet abbreviation, it's added in the latest version.
There were a couple of questions about the webinar availability at a later time in case we want to go back and review some of the material. And the answer is yes, of course, we record all our webinars and more. Also, Octavian provided the sample files and the slides, so they will be also available on the event page, the same page that you probably went to register for the webinar. It's on our website on the events section. It will be now in the past events. You will find the webinar listed, and on that page we will have the recording and the sample files, so you can not only review the presentation but also try some of the things yourself if you want to. You'll also receive a follow-up email with the link to the recording when that is available. Okay. I'm not familiar with curly braces in the attribute values. Is that a feature of XSLT or of Oxygen? And the answer is it's an XSLT feature called attribute value templates. And also Octavian presented after that the XSLT 3 functionality that extended this idea also to content, so in the form of text value templates.
So in order to insert a value here, you need to use these curly brackets in, and you can insert an attribute value template here. In this attribute, you can process the value. So yes, it is on XSLT. It's in the XSLT specification.
Okay, so we have some new questions coming in just now. Is XSLT Unicode coverage the same as XSpec?
Yes, we want to provide the XSLT unit coverage. The XSpec support has already this XSLT unit coverage is not integrated yet in Oxygen, and we want to have this feature available.
Okay. We have a couple of questions about learning, beginning to learn XSLT, and so where is the best to go for a beginner to learn XSLT? That's one question. And another one, what books do you consider most useful for people learning XSLT and for people who are familiar with an early version but want to learn more about version 3.0? So do you have any recommendation, Octavian, for that? I think we have on our website some page where we have some.
No, we do not have, but maybe we can add some resources. Maybe I'll add a page somewhere with resources about XSLT. At some point we had this, but right now I don't think we have. There are a lot of tutorials, very useful. I think the one that I liked is the one from the Plural site, the Dimitri Novacek tutorial. You can find it on Plural site. It's very interesting, and it explains very well the XSLT support. I think there are 3 presentations. So for basic things, then for more advanced XSLT 2.0, and also has some tutorials for 3.0. There are also presentations on LinkedIn or other or in other places, but I think this is that this is the one that I liked it most.
There are also books like Michael Kay, Jenny Tennyson, and I think also a couple of other people.
I think the books are also linked here in my presentation.
Sample.
Yes, in the sample. If we go here in the list of books, there are some XSLT books that you can check. These are older versions, but for XSLT2, I think it's okay to have it, and I think most of the XSLT support is explained here very well.
What is the URL of the site that was talked about with good tutorial? I couldn't here understand it. So maybe you can repeat or you can type in the Plural site.
Yes, I will type it. I'll find it later. I don't have the link here, but we can. We'll send you a follow-up email.
Let me see.
Do you have it somewhere?
Yes. Just let me type it in the chat, or
you can type it for all of
chat. Yes. And actually, I think this week they have a free week. I think Dmitry Novachev also sent a message on the XSLT list. And by the way, the XSL list hosted by Mulberry Technologies is like the place to go for any XSLT questions. And it was a recent discussion also on XSLT tutorials. So you can find in the archives maybe also other references to training material that is available and so on. someone mentions that there is also an xml.com Slack channel now. So I pasted the URL to Pluralsight on the chat. And another question, could you please highlight briefly how XSLT can be used to transform data or XML to PDF if it's applicable? Thank you. So yes, XSLT can be used to convert, for example, XML or data to XSLFO, and then you can apply an FOP processor, a formatting object processor, to obtain the PDF. Another alternative is to convert, for instance, the XML file to HTML, and then you have also the option to apply CSS with a processor that will convert to PDF, XML, and XHTML based on CSS. Actually, you can also apply directly XML plus CSS with such a processor and obtain PDF. We do provide such a processor called Oxygen XML chemistry, Oxygen PDF chemistry, and it's included in the Oxygen distribution. But there are also others like Prince XML or Antenna House that provide similar functionality. So there are multiple processors that can convert from XML or HTML plus CSS to PDF. The classic alternative is to convert from XML to XSLFO, which is another XML language, and then there are an FO processors that convert from that language to PDF.
Yes, and we provide also some built-in transformation for data. So we already provide the style sheets here and the transformations here to generate this PDF for data. So you just need to go to the configure transformation and select the transformation here, and we'll just have the PDF created.
Could you also briefly suggest ways to convert the XML to JSON using Oxygen?
For XML to JSON, we have a tool here available in JSON tools that allows you to convert very easily from XML to JSON. This tool is available also online on our website, and you can use also XSLT to do this transformation. We have some built-in transformations. If we search here for XSLT, there is a template that processes JSON documents using XSLT, and you can use it by transforming into XML or directly processing the XSLT. And in order to do this, you can use this JSON to XML functions. These are 3.0 style sheets, so there are 3.0 functions here. But there is a different conversion, the one that the style sheet provides and the one that you have it in the tools. I think I have here a JSON file. So let's see, for this JSON file, if I go and use the JSON to XML, will be something like this. So this will be the generated document. We'll have each property from the JSON will be converted to an element in the XML document, and the value will be added as text.
I think you also presented a JSON support in Oxygen webinar where you cover a bit more on the support for JSON is available.
Yes, there is a JSON webinar that you can find it on our page here, on our videos page, and you can search for JSON here. I think we have a filter for JSON, And then here you have these JSON tools in Oxygen that presents this support and much more. And also, for example, here for how to transform, how you can use the XSLT to transform a JSON.
Okay, somebody says, I'm not an XSLT programmer. I use it as a tool in other work that I do. This means that I don't invest 40 hours a week in this. I just want to say I've been amazed at how easy it has been to use without even knowing about all of the features that were presented here. So thanks, and
Yeah,
also
this is good. If you
yeah,
if you
that's
can
a
use
very
it
good.
without any help, this is the best.
I work with XML JATs, and I would like to customize my templates. Could you suggest something to do? Well, what can we say?
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
Depends on the customization that you want to do. You can also look into using the debugger, for instance, that may help. So once you run, let's say, an XML and an XSLT in the debugger, then you also have back mapping support, so you can click in the output and see where that is generated from, and that maybe an interesting way to approach the customization, because you can go from the output and see where that is generated from, and then you know, if you want to change that part of the output, then maybe you automatically find the source in the style sheet that generates that, like Octavian just did now. So if you want, like, you click on that paragraph and you want something else, or you click on
Yes, on
you know,
here
on the bold, yeah, you can see exactly where that is generated from, and then you can change the style sheet, for instance, to accommodate your updates or what your customization.
Yes, and then you can run the transformation also from here to see the result as you modify.
Another thing is that you can import your existing style sheet, for instance, and then maybe overwrite a template, then use XSLT next match to call the previous one. And I don't know, maybe you can wrap that around some other element, use XSLT next match to apply the previous processing, like the super call in object-oriented programming languages. I don't know, maybe that also helps as an approach to customization, right? So you can create your style sheet, import the previous one that you were using, and then override some of the templates or name templates or template matches. You know, just overwrite it, add an XSLT message, see what happens, or try to customize this way. Hope that answered at least a bit of your questions. Number of people saying thank you for the presentation, Octavian. So
Thank you for attending to our webinar. I'm pleased to be.
We went through all the questions now. Thank you all for being here with us, and thanks, Octavian. And I think we should give control to Alin, because he has some additional information before ending the webinar.
Okay, thank you.
And thank you, Octavian and George, for providing answers to our audience's questions. Also, a big thank you to everyone that shared their questions with us. Now, before this event comes to an end, let me tell you a little bit about our upcoming events. Next week, we will have part 1, basic CSS layout of the new mini-series debuting, transforming HTML documents to PDF. In this webinar, we aim to teach you a basic understanding of the CSS layout to help you have a better understanding of PDF publishing, and rest assured that there is no need for you to have any CSS background to learn the concepts. The week after that, on October 28th, we will have the Explore Web Author Beyond Technical Documentation webinar. And you will see in this particular webinar how Web Author will come in handy in various instances. For example, allowing you to build guided procedures where new users won't require additional training or validation. And on November 4th, introducing the Oxygen Publishing Engine for data, which basically it will represent a crash course for you to learn what the Oxygen Publishing Engine is by showing you how to install it, configure it in a continuous integration system, and then customize the output and various other things. Now, more webinars will be added to our list, so make sure to check our page of events where you can also register for free. With this being said, thanks again, Octavian, for giving us this great introduction to XSLT with the use of Oxygen. And thank you, George, for helping us with the audience's questions. Also, a big thank you to everyone for taking part in our today's event.
Okay, thank you everybody. Bye.
Bye-bye. We will hear each other next week, so bye-bye.